So in a standard Vue.js application, if I map the my app element onto the root instance of Vue.js, Vue.js will render the app component into this position in the document and essentially completely remove all of the content that I have highlighted here, replacing it with the rendered content of the app component. However, I can think of maybe one or two use cases where I might want to use this area of the top level HTML page to provide maybe like a DSL domain-specific language as input to the app component, or in other words, use this content area as a way to provide projectable content into the app component. Now, like I said, most of the time when you mount a Vue.js application, all of this is replaced. However, if we jump into my main.js file, where I'm pointing to the my app element, and this would be the standard use case where I'm simply taking my app component, rendering it, and that's going to replace the my app custom element. However, if we comment out the render component, the render method, and we omit any template, what that's going to cause Vue.js to do is use this content here as the template for my root Vue instance. Now, because this is now acting as a template and is not being replaced, I will have to explicitly map the my app custom element onto my app component. However, this now allows me excuse me, to take this content and project it into my app component. So if we look at my app component, what we can see here is, of course, I have a top level element, some inside content here, and then I'm using the standard slot syntax to project from the top level HTML page into my app component. And if we jump over into the browser and we run this, what you can see here is that here's my app component, and here is that sort of boilerplate content that I use in all of my demos in the top level HTML page is being now projected into the middle of my app component. And in fact, if we jump over into my compiled HTML, and you can see it's compiled, like here's all my Webpack link and JavaScript being passed in. I can come in here and we can just edit this so you can see that it's actually working at runtime. Now I just refresh, and here's that content from the top level HTML page being projected into my app component using the standard slot syntax. Now keep in mind that Vue doesn't know about this content, this projected content ahead of time, right? This is my compiled page. I'm editing my compiled page, which of course has, caveats in and of itself. But again, because Vue.js can't know about this content ahead of time, it actually has to compile this at runtime, which means that when you include Vue into your compiled bundle, you have to also include the Vue compiler. You can't just include the Vue runtime. So not only does this have a potentially negative impact on the bundle size, it also has potentially a negative impact on the time to first interaction, because Vue is going to have to compile this code when you open up your application. So there are some clear contraindications for this approach, but I think it does pose an interesting thought experiment, and it is something that I could see being useful in one or two cases where, say, I might want to provide, again, some sort of domain-specific language or other kinds of configuration information that I might want a non-engineer to come in and be able to define in the top-level page. Of course, I want to make sure not to overwrite any of this during my build step. So again, that's a whole other conversation. But again, just an approach to being able to project content from the top-level HTML page into the app component using that standard slot syntax.